Some stories don't fade. They don't settle. They don't resolve. They sit with you, in your chest, in your gut, because something about them refuses to make sense. Tonight, we return to one of those stories. The death of 21-year-old Tripp Brazeale in St. Francis County, Arkansas. A case that left a family searching for answers, a community divided, and viewers of our first episode about this case asking the same question we asked. How does something like this happen? Since that episode aired, Tripp's mother reached out to us directly. She shared new information with us, new inconsistencies, and her concerns, some of which she has never spoken publicly about before. And what she told us, hey, it raises even more questions, y'all. Welcome back to Murder with Mike's Wife. I'm Mike.
And I'm Shay. Tonight is a follow-up to a case that many of you still message us about, the death of Tripp Brazeale. If you haven't seen our first episode, it's on Murder with Mike on Mike and Juju Smoke Room on our other YouTube channel. The link is in the description. That episode lays out the timeline, the official statements, and the questions that were already surrounding the case.
Yeah, but tonight, y'all, we're going deeper because Tripp's mother emailed us with new details, new contradictions, and new information from their private investigator. Some of it she can't release publicly yet, but what she can share is enough to warrant a second look at everything we thought we knew about this. Now, we're going to read the email in sections, y'all, because it is long, very emotional, and packed with information. And we want to break down each part as we go. Thank you for covering my son's story. None of it makes sense to me or to anyone who hears this story. We're trying our best to get this case reopened from the Attorney General. I have two very interesting details to release that I can't at this time, but I will as soon as I can. Just trust me, it will make your skin boil from anger like it has ours.
That's a strong statement, and it tells us that the family's still actively investigating, pushing, and still fighting.
Definitely. She also says in the state police interview, the officer chasing him never gave him a reason for chasing my son. The sergeant on shift and the civilian riding with the officer who chased him, they all have a different story. The sergeant said my son was coming to a stop. The civilian, he said he came to a stop and had his hands up. But Officer Bynum turned his lights on for some reason.
3 people, 3 different versions. That's not a small detail. That's the core moment of this entire investigation.
Definitely. Now, we have been told by so many of my son's friends, and even a neighbor, that he had made several comments that the cops said if they get him, they will unalive him. That's strong.
That's heartbreaking. And again, these are allegations from friends and neighbors, not verified statements. But they matter because they show a pattern of fear.
To continue, about a week before this happened, he was riding his four-wheeler and pulled into our neighbor's house to hide from a cop. He told her, if he sees me, he will unalive me. She looked on the road as the county truck drove by, and it was Officer Bynum. In body cam footage of that night, Officer Bynum says the four-wheeler went into limp mode due to a rollover. Then he laughs about the damage done to his truck and says, we have the four-wheeler. That's all that matters. You can see the four-wheeler seat beside the driver's side tire of the officer's truck, she says.
That's a strong tone for a missing person situation. Laughing about damage, saying the four-wheeler is all that matters, that's kind of odd.
Yeah, that's definitely not right. It definitely shows when you're talking to someone's family and you're in a position like that, you should have a lot more understanding of the situation. Tripp's mother goes on to say the officer and the sergeant made statements to other officers that the four-wheeler rolled over and even put that in their report, but told state police a totally different story. When my son called me to come get him, he said he could see the blue lights and was walking up to them. We told him we were on the way. It took us about 10 minutes to get to the location, and no one was in sight, not even the cops. We searched for about 3 hours alone until the cops called us and asked us if we found him. Now that is strange.
Yeah, that timeline is one of the biggest red flags of this entire case.
And to continue, the fire department sent the thermal drone in the air, but never saw my son, and that they only saw animals. The civilian said in the statement that his boots got caught in the fence, but there was a boot found in the woods.
That's not a small inconsistency. That's a physical impossibility unless the story is wrong.
Right. She says the civilian also told my investigator on a recorded line that he could not have changed the events of that night without getting Officer Bynum in trouble, but failed to mention that to the state police, of course. We had one officer who told a couple of friends that if they went to the creek to search for him, he would arrest them and take their side-by-side. What? That's crazy.
Why discourage a search? Why threaten people trying to help?
Well, what are you hiding? To continue her email, the biggest one is, how can any human walk roughly 3.5 miles in a creek and deep covered woods without getting one single scratch or bruise on the bottom of their feet, but yet their body has cuts and bruises all over it? That's not right. You would think that walking through the woods, period, barefoot for 10, 20 feet, you'd get something. The officer has been to at least 17 departments since 2019, she says. His name is Alvin Merle Bynum III, but he did his report and goes by Trey for some reason. Trey is not his legal name. Also, we paid for a second autopsy, and her findings are different than what state police say. That's a lot to unfold.
Yeah,
a whole lot. Let's talk about these conflicting stories.
Yeah, when 3 people describe the same moment differently, that's not a memory issue, that's a narrative issue.
The civilian said that he had his hands up and was stopped. The officer says his four-wheeler rolled over. Just something's not right here. Yeah, and even if unverified, the consistency of the claims from multiple people that said that this young man had told them that he felt threatened and was scared, this is really important, y'all.
Yeah. And the rollover claim versus the body cam versus the report, that's a triangle of contradictions.
Yeah, to go back to that, and 3 different people, 3 different stories. And one guy that has clearly changed his story. Let's talk about that missing 10 minutes. That is huge. Tripp calls his parents. They arrive. But no officers, no lights, no search for their son. Right. That time gap, that is big. That really matters.
Yeah. And then the civilian, his story changes. His boot location contradicts his statement. And he admits privately that telling the truth would get the officer in trouble.
Yeah, and he doesn't share that with the state police, though. Just with the private investigator. We've got a lot of physical impossibilities in this case. We're talking 3.5 miles in dense woods, which is hard enough with shoes,
right.
But barefoot with no foot injuries? Yeah, he had cuts everywhere else and bruises. Now, to me, that defies basic physical reality.
Yeah. And the second autopsy is one of the strongest pieces of leverage the family has. And a second autopsy contradicting the official findings is a major development.
Definitely. I hope a lot comes out from that. Let's reconstruct the timeline. We've got family statements, we've got the reports, and we've got new information.
This is not speculation. This is strictly what has been stated.
Yes. So the timeline breakdown. First, Tripp is on his four-wheeler. He's out there doing what kids in this area do, driving his four-wheeler around, enjoying life. Officer Bynum begins pursuit for some reason, but gives no stated reason why. And the sergeant says that Tripp was stopping. You've got the civilians saying Tripp had his hands up, and Officer Bynum, for some reason, turns his lights on.
Tripp calls his parents, says he sees blue lights and he's walking towards them. His parents arrive 10 minutes later, no officers or anybody present. Family searches alone for 3 hours.
Well, that right there is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, you pulled him over. You say that he was missing, that he took off in the woods, but y'all didn't pursue him? Y'all just went about your business?
Right.
Let the family search?
And then you're going to call later asking the family if they found him?
Yeah. You also have that thermal drones. They don't see any human heat signatures, only animals out there. And you got the boot that was found in the woods, not the fence like the civilian said.
Yeah. And then the body found miles away with injuries inconsistent with barefoot traveling.
Exactly. I grew up in Arkansas. I've been in the woods a lot in my life. And 3.5 miles over certain terrain is hard enough. But barefoot, without anything showing that you have been out there barefoot for 3.5 miles, it's just impossible. Right. And when you lay it all out like this, y'all, these gaps, they become impossible to ignore. Let's be honest. There are some questions that still remain.
Yeah, like why did the officer begin the pursuit? Why do all 3 witnesses have different stories? Why was the family searching alone for hours?
And look, I just cannot get over 3 hours of searching without any police involvement when the police involvement is what started this case.
Right.
Like, there's some explaining to do there, guys. Why did the drone not detect him? Like, if he was out there, that drone should have seen him. They picked up small animals. How did he travel miles barefoot with no foot injuries? I cannot get past that either. Like, it's just, even the toughest Native Americans back in the day that were barefoot all the time, you would still have some kind of indication that you had been out there barefoot for 3.5 miles, especially someone that wears shoes all the time, Why did the civilian story change? He said one thing in the beginning. He said something else to state police. And then to the private investigator by Tripp's mother, he said something totally different and states on recording that he did not want to get the officer in trouble.
Yeah. Why did the officer use a name that wasn't his legal name? Why has he worked at 17 different departments since 2019?
And I want to say, these are all things that Tripp's mother has said. We don't know for sure that he's worked at 17 different departments. This is what the private investigator has found. But if he has, in 5 years, that's like something is happening that he's getting let go at all these jobs.
Yeah.
And why are people not stopping him from being a police officer anywhere else if he's that incapable of doing his job that he's had to have 17 different jobs in 5 years?
Right. And then the second autopsy, contradicting the first autopsy.
Right. I'd like to see that autopsy. I'd like to know the differences. Hopefully that comes to light soon. Right. These aren't small questions. These are case-shifting questions. These questions need to be investigated again. This case needs to really be dove into and a result come out of it. All right, Shay.
As someone studying criminal psychology, I look for patterns. And this case is full of them. Patterns of inconsistency, patterns of avoidance, patterns of shifting stories, even patterns of missing information. Families don't fight this hard unless something feels deeply wrong. And Tripp's family has been fighting since day one.
I want to take a moment and say much love and respect to this family. And to Tripp's mother, thank you for trusting us with your words. It really means a lot. We will continue to follow this case. We will continue to share updates as you're able to release them. And we stand with you and your family 100% in your pursuit of answers.
Cases don't get reopened because people stay quiet. They get reopened because people refuse to let the truth get buried.
That's it, y'all. I'm Mike.
And I'm Shay.
And this is Murder with Mike's Wife. Stay safe out there. Never trust a narrative.